Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for joining us. This evening we have a very special guest, and she is versed in a lot of areas, so we're going to tackle her. Not literally, but we're going to pick her brain on a number of issues in our society, some of them which she is very familiar with, and others she might need a little dusting off. Our very special guest is the founder of CARIFAM, the Caribbean Center for Family and Human Rights. She's also a former Speaker of the House. She's also affiliated with the United Workers' Party. Mrs. Sarah Flood-Beaubrun. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Clinton, and good evening, viewers. It's really good to be back. Thank you for inviting me here today, Clinton.
It is really good to see you, especially right now. There's so many issues that are facing our society, so many things to talk about. But let's go into a little about where you are right now, what you're doing, and how CARIFAM is doing.
Well, basically, I founded the Caribbean Center for Family and Human Rights, and our mission is to promote family, human rights, and human dignity. There is just so much happening in our society, which affects the family. And we know that the family is the fundamental cell unit of society, and strong, healthy families mean strong, healthy societies. There is no problem that we can tackle in a country, be it an economical problem, be it building society, if we do not strengthen the family. And recognizing that there are so many attacks on the family, not just here in St. Lucia, in the Caribbean and worldwide, we felt that it is really important to have an organization that seeks to strengthen the family so that we can strengthen all of society. So for the past year, that's what I've been spending time developing. We have a structure in place. We've got our website. You can check us out on www.carifam.com. There is a management committee in St. Lucia, and we're reaching out to the Caribbean to form management committees in the Caribbean so that we can have a Caribbean-wide response to issues that affect the family.
Now, what is the most challenging, aspect of that work?
Well, setting up something new is not easy. We want to build a very solid foundation. We have a lot of able, skilled people in the Caribbean. A lot of people that are concerned about what is happening in our Caribbean societies, especially the pressure that is coming from outside, from more developed countries to really impose policies on us that really attack the family and undermine our traditional values. And because we are so dependent on development aid, we find it difficult to resist these pressures. But it is important that we resist them. We in the Caribbean can find homegrown solutions to our problems, and it's important that we do that. But we need to be unified, we need to educate our people, and we need to be strengthened. So the idea is to bring together all persons who recognize the importance of the family in our society so that we can come up with solutions to every one of our problems by recognizing the importance of strengthening the family.
Now, I mean, it must be a tall order because, those agencies that you referred to earlier, they usually pin or hinge their aid to certain policy positions, and some of them go contrary to what CARIFAM supports. How do you counter those agencies and even some governments, and from where do you get support?
Well, we have recognized that a lot of our citizenry don't really realize what is at stake. For example, even when we look at the issue that we spoke about recently, that of the suggestion by Planned Parenthood that we should provide emergency contraception to 13 to 15-year-olds. I mean, we're talking about children here that Planned Parenthood is suggesting that we bypass their parents, we bypass the health provider, and we provide them emergency access. Here you are talking about a child who is vulnerable, we in our societies have to look for solutions that really solve problems that we are faced with, but we're creating more problems. So what we are advocating is real solutions to problems and not just throwing quick fixes. And we recognize that if we look at the things that work, there are so many best practices that show what really works. And in essence, the things we're advocating are what are going to be ensuring that we have the successes that we want to have.
Now, I wanted to raise this issue, as a serious one, and one that, I wanted to spend some time on, the morning after pill. And you had some statements on that earlier on. You also made a statement on your website and your newsletter. And, some strong positions as well. Can you understand where Planned Parenthood is coming from as far as that issue?
I don't. Because if a 13-year-old, I think you have children. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And she was born just the other day. I tell her all the time that she was born just the other day. She's a child. If a 13-year-old comes to me and says, I'm sexually active, I need a morning after pill. If a 13-year-old is sexually active, somebody is abusing that child. That child is being raped. And as an adult, as an agency charged with the responsibility of, or with a mission to help children, I would say, well, who is raping that child? And what the state should be doing, or what agencies should be doing, is ensuring that that perpetrator of sexual violence against the child is brought to justice and the child is protected. Providing emergency contraception to that child over the counter without parental knowledge or involvement, without the involvement of a health provider, means that you're shielding the perpetrator so that he can continue perpetrating the violence against that child. So when a child at 13 comes and says, I'm sexually active, I need a morning after pill, that child has a bigger need than simply the morning after pill. That child has a need for general care, protection, and help, so that the child is not in a situation of exploitation or where violence is perpetrated against that child. Now, so I do not understand Planned Parenthood's point that you just need to give that child a quick fix, a morning after pill, so that the perpetrator is shielded and can continue abusing that child.
Now, we're aware of those issues because they are long-standing. They're not new issues. The issue of abuse, the issue of incest in our society, which runs rampant. You also were health minister and also gender relations minister. Do you think that the laws which govern those issues are too soft, too lenient, that perpetrators of those acts against minors are allowed to escape scotch-free?
The laws are there, and I don't think the laws are too lenient in themselves. It is the application of these laws that are important. They have to be enforced. And a healthcare provider or any adult that comes into the knowledge that a child has been abused should be mandated to report that crime to the police, and action should follow. That is what is not happening. Agencies are not reporting the evidence that comes to them of abuse of children.
But if
and that is why Planned Parenthood can suggest that, because it is as though we as adults and agencies do not have a responsibility to report any evidence that we have of abuse against a child. And many people don't report it because they feel, well, I report it and nothing happens.
No, but if it is mandatory that they do report those issues to law enforcement officials, and that is not happening,
what are the sanctions?
Exactly.
What are the sanctions?
You don't know what are we saying here? If someone has a responsibility to follow a certain course, and that is not happening, shouldn't that person be held accountable?
Absolutely.
And shouldn't that person be prosecuted as a result?
Absolutely, but it's not happening. It is not happening.
But why isn't it happening?
Because,
do you have any?
Because at the end of the day, the responsibility rests with all of us, and many of us, too many of us, simply turn a blind eye because we figure it will not make a difference anyway. And that is what is happening. So our children are left unprotected. I had a look at the Planned Parenthood Facebook page before I came here. And there is an ad on the Facebook page ridiculing abstinence. Ridiculing abstinence. So here you have an organization, on the one hand, promoting or suggesting that the morning after pill should be given without a prescription, encouraging perpetrators of sexual crimes against children to continue their acts, encouraging sexual permissiveness among children, and at the same time ridiculing abstinence. Isn't there something really, really serious about that? Sexual activity is harmful to children, and we should encourage children to stay away from sexual activity. We should protect them if they are being abused, and we should encourage them to stay away from sexual activity. This is the best solution. I mean, too many times in our society, Clinton, we lower the bar. We do not want to aim for the highest standard. We may not reach it, but we cannot lower the standard. And that is what has happened in our societies. St. Lucia has the Caribbean, has the highest rate of early sexual initiation in the world. In the world. That is the reason we have broken families. That is the reason we have high crime rates. That's the reason why our economy is doing badly. Because if a child is being abused at 13, more than likely that child will continue to be abused for the rest of her life. And you will see the pattern her life will take, and she will not develop to her full potential. So this is not just about not providing emergency contraception. This is about giving children and our citizens the best environment for them to flourish.
Now,
so this is how we deal with issues in our economy.
Let's talk about options.
Ensuring people have the best. What you put in is what you get out.
Let's talk about options, because I remember, growing up, there's the argument about condoms and making them available. I think that still continues to teenagers, and the idea was that abstinence is the best policy or the best course to follow. But if in case, protect yourself. Can't we look at the morning after pill similarly? Because if you have children being abused and being impregnated by their abusers, would you want a situation where those abused children will produce children who in turn might be abused just as they will? Or do you want to stem it and take a different course and say, okay, well, we realize that this abuse has taken place. So we realize that there's a problem here. Let us address the abuse, but at the same time, let us not put this young person, this teen, this little girl, in a position where she has to suffer more abuse.
Okay, but that's exactly what you're doing when you give the morning after pill.
Right.
Because when you give it, the child is going back to the abusive situation. You haven't done anything about the abusive situation.
But what if you address the abusive situation? And at the same time address possible impregnation? You
address the abusive situation, you remove the child out of the situation completely. And most importantly, even before we get to the point where the child would quote unquote need a morning after pill, we need to ensure that in our schools, in our societies, we teach children appropriately. We need to have, for example, good health and family life curriculums, so that our children do not find themselves in a situation where they are having early sexual activity. It is possible. I mean, you may not achieve 100% rate of success, but we can do much better than we are doing. And our efforts should be concentrated there. By going straight for the morning after pill, we are saying that we are defeated. We are saying that we cannot create a society where children can continue to be children until they become adults.
Where did we drop the ball? Where did we drop the ball? Because when you were growing up, when I was growing up, you children, especially young girls, would get excommunicated, if you were to put it that way.
Could you explain that?
That they would be, if they got pregnant at school, they'd be expelled. They would not be allowed to participate in activities of children their age. Even teachers, if they got pregnant outside of wedlock, female teachers, the teachers, they would not be allowed to continue teaching.
Do not get me wrong. I mean, I really believe that in every system or in every structure, we should cater for persons who do not reach the standard, as we say, to help them build back up. So in the case of a child getting pregnant, that child should be allowed to continue school. And I think that is the situation here in St. Lucia. So we are not saying that we are going to have this standard, and if you don't reach it, well, that's it, too bad for you. No. The idea is that you set the bar. Abstinence is the best option for young people. Now, what we are doing in our society today, we say abstinence, but we promote sex all the time. So the children are getting double messages. So it's not just a question of the Caribbean Center for Family and Human Rights saying this. All agencies need to come together. The government, the church, the NGOs, the family, the parents, the schools. Everybody has to be giving the same message to young people, but that's not what's happening. Sex is being promoted all the time. I mean, you have now the rights of children, the sexual rights of children, and there are some agencies saying that children are sexual beings, and that they should be allowed to have free sex, and adults should be able to have sex, because you're having all different agencies coming at you with different things. But if there is a national policy where a government says this is who we are as a people, we recognize that this is the best path for our country to follow, it will mean that our people will flourish, we will reach our full potential, we'll have a healthy society. And in light of that, this is the standard we are setting for ourselves, and we're calling all agencies to work with us to achieve that standard. Then everybody's working toward the same goal, and at the same time you put measures in place for persons who may fall by the wayside, that you lift them up and you move forward. But we're not doing that. We're not doing that. There are double messages being given out to our young people. Where have we dropped the ball? St. Lucia has the highest rate of out-of-wedlock births in the whole world. That's the UN Fertility Report 2007. We have broken families. We have very young parents who don't know how to parent. And so when you have children having children, the values are not being passed on, the discipline isn't being passed on. Parents are not there to raise the children, to teach them the good habits. Long ago, our grandparents used to be the one to instill discipline. But now the grandparents are so young, they're having children as well as the parents. Who is there for the children? No one. So the television, that's where the children get it. The internet, the television. So we have a lot of work to do. We do. And in a sense, we have to go back to basics. Social science data shows clearly that the best environment for the development of the child is with mother and father, parents. It's a fact. So whether we like it or not, it is a fact. This is the best environment for the growth and development of children. So we have to aim for that. We have to aim for it. We support single moms. There are lots of single parents who do a wonderful job of raising children. We're not saying that. They are not doing a wonderful job, but still, the best environment for the child, the ideal environment for the nurturing of the child is with both parents. Children need both parents. So we have to go back to basics.
Let's take a break on that note, and we'll come back and discuss more of this. I'm speaking with Mrs. Sarah Flood-Beaubrun. I don't know where to start. She's the founder of CARIFAM, which is the Caribbean Center for Family and Human Rights, also former Health and Gender Relations Minister, also former Speaker of the House, also former UN Ambassador. You get the point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.